All right. So, welcome, Joe. Commissioner Joe Atkins is Commissioner of Dakota County. He's also a former school board member from Grove Heights, Mayor of Grove Heights, and House of Representatives member. Did I get all that, Joe?
You sure did.
Okay,
I'm the
good.
guy that just can't hold a job, I guess. I just
Well,
I self-limit. We don't need term limits when I'm around because I just retire myself from one position to the next.
so welcome. It's great to have you. And I think people are very interested to hear your views on a couple of things. Most recently, the Dakota County met about 2 weeks ago for an issue that turned out to be a very emotional one for many people in Dakota County. The idea of transporting water from Dakota County to another state, to Arizona, I believe it was. Um, and it's funny because there's actually, I have a little bit of a story there. Back in 1995, my dad gave me a copy of Time magazine, and in the back of the Time magazine was an essay by Garrison Keillor about how to solve droughts. And my dad gave this to me, and his solution for how to solve droughts was to take Lake Superior water and transport it down to the southeast. And my dad gave that to me as a young 15-year-old to say, what do you think about this? And his point was that it was satire, that this was a laughable idea and you should be able to see that. So how have we gotten in 20 years, 25 years, from something that's held up for buffoonery, for satire, to something that people are actually seriously considering? Like, we're actually seriously considering transporting water from Arizona to, or from Minnesota to Arizona.
Well, and I got to tell you, when I first heard about it, I thought it was a joke. Except it wasn't April Fool's Day, and it certainly wasn't a joke. There is a group called Empire Builder Investments, the real estate arm of Progressive Rail Company, that has been working with an Oregon-based group of investors called WaterTrain.us. You can look it up perhaps while we're even chatting here. And WaterTrain, they're in the business of transporting water across the country via rail. They proposed it in roughly September, earliest part of October. And fortunately, that proposal went down in flames, mixing analogies a little bit. But the state reviewed it. They were seeking to tap into the deepest aquifer here in Dakota County, glacial water, 12,000-year-old, the most pristine water that we have anywhere in Minnesota, and pump and ship that by rail to Arizona, Colorado, perhaps California, but the southwestern U.S. And it wasn't just the preposterous nature of the request in general, but the size, which was mammoth, up to 500 million gallons. So that, just by comparison, that's as much water as every human being in Grove Heights uses in 6 months. It's acres, it's hundreds of football fields of water. And well, that one got turned down. And there were some that thought, okay, that's it, that finishes it, it's gone, it's going away. And it was turned down rather rapidly. What we've learned in the time since is that that was just a test. They then went, same group has been in touch with farmers in Scioto. The first one is in Randolph Township in southern Dakota County. Now they're apparently been in contact with farmers in places like Scioto Township, also in Dakota County, with the thinking evidently being that they would fit within a loophole in Minnesota law that allows a typical farmer has a well, may pull some water up, move it from where the well is across into another field, maybe a quarter mile, a half mile away at times. Well, there's evidently not enough of a limitation on that, and so they have this theory that they can fit within that loophole, take that amount of water, and just ship it like any farmer would. So fortunately, we heard about that going on. And we've both contacted people like Representative Hansen and others in the Minnesota House and Senate, Senator Klein, Representative Richardson, to seek to strengthen that law, provide more transparency, number one, so that everybody knows about it. Local governments know about it, citizens know about it, have an ability to weigh in on it, and it's not just an agency decision. Quite frankly, I'm not that concerned about this agency that was appointed by Governor Walz. I don't think they're going to entertain the idea of shipping water across the country. I would be worried about potentially a future administration. So it's all the more reason to strengthen our laws, close those loopholes. That was unfortunately not able to get done this session. Representative Hansen made some headway with Representative Wagenius, and it just wasn't able with the challenges presented by this this session with COVID going on. Just weren't able to get that across the finish line, at least not yet. And so in the meantime, we also instituted a moratorium, a one-year moratorium, so that we can, on preventing any massive type wells, 1,000 gallons a day, 1,000,000 gallons a year, anything larger than that is not going to be allowed for a year. Well, we have an opportunity to update and strengthen our own ordinances to ensure that that this sort of thing can't happen. Why is this? It's not just an esoteric or existential question. It's an important real world question for Dakota County, because in Dakota County, we literally just in September had a report that was issued that showed we have water quantity issues of our own. This isn't, it's not imaginary. It's very much within the next 10 to 15 years, we expect to see water depletion issues of our own in places like Inver Grove Heights and Rosemont and Egan and Apple Valley and rural Dakota County. So we've got, when we have those issues going on ourselves, and we have literally 90% of Dakota County residents relying on groundwater for their drinking water. This isn't an issue that that we can take lightly. And even though some folks thought it was a joke when it first started, it is serious as all get out at this point. We've got to make certain that it is not allowed to happen here in Dakota County. That's kind of in a nutshell what's happened over the last several months and where things stand at this point. I'm happy to visit about other issues, but if it's all right, I'd like to take any questions that people have at this stage, or concerns. If anybody disagrees with me, I'm happy to listen to that. But I'd also be happy to answer questions or concerns that folks may have.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and unmute, or you can type in the chat if you have questions. I've linked 2 articles in the chat. I don't, if you're late coming in, I can probably link them again. The first is that Time magazine article. You do have to have a Time subscription to see it. The second is about the meeting that they had where they put the 1-year moratorium on the digging of wells.
Well, I don't see any questions, so I do see a hand up though. Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't our drinking water come from the Mississippi?
For a couple places, a couple of communities, it does. Those South St. Paul, West St. Paul for sure, and I think South St. Paul still is working with or partners with the city of St. Paul and draws their drinking water from the Mississippi. The vast majority, though, of Dakota County, 90% of residents rely on the aquifers, the groundwater.
Thank you.
Daniel, did you have a question?
Certainly.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yes,
Daniel.
I did. Well, I just mainly wanted to thank Commissioner Atkins for. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Atkins for addressing this issue, this water issue, and thanks for your time and effort with this. And I know you'll continue to make it a priority. And I would assume it would be a good thing. Like Representative Richardson is my representative, so you know, I'll send a note her way. I know she's real good on environmental issues, telling her that I do hope in the future there can be some legislation so that this won't be a worry in the future, losing our water like that.
Yep.
See,
Thank you,
there,
Daniel. I appreciate your kind comments. I also,
You're welcome.
Ruth and Rick Hansen. We've had a lot of support from our legislators. It's a great legislative delegation that's been representing us, but it still helps. I know that they like to hear from folks, and they like to know that they're on the right page. So don't hesitate to reach out to them as well.
see, there are a couple questions in the
There's
chat.
a couple of questions in the chat box. Do you want me to? Okay.
No, I'm going.
So the first question is from Martha. The first question is from Martha Bailey, who asked, can we stop this at the county level?
The short answer is we can. We've stopped it for sure for a year by instituting the moratorium. During the 1-year period, we're looking at other additional ways that we can stop it permanently. But it seems to me that since aquifers do not stop at the county line, that this is not solely a Dakota County issue, that this goes beyond our boundaries, and that's why we've approached Representative Hansen and our legislators to seek to do a statewide strengthening of those laws. And I'm just looking in the comments here as well, and I see that there was one of the questions is why did they single out Dakota County? They actually have not come and spoken to us as a county board, so I can't say with certainty directly from them. I can speculate that the Lakeville-based Progressive Rail is one of the partners in this effort, and the fact that they're located in Lakeville, perhaps the first place they looked is along existing rail line that they own here in Dakota County that connects then to larger lines that head to the southwest. And I'm just looking at I see some folks have some technical issues about their audio. And can we stop it at the county level? All right, I think that's the questions I'm seeing. Are there, how can the West curtail its massive irrigation pumping of so much water into green fields for growing? As a Dakota County Commissioner, I can't honestly say that I know the answer to that. What I do know though, doing some research, is that they waste vast amounts of water in the desert Southwest. And as much as I care about our neighbors and would be the first one to reach out and help somebody that's got a problem, the last thing I'm going to do is help those who are wasting their own natural resources to make sure their golf courses are green. They've also got no limitations on and no incentives to curtail their water use and engage in water conservation in many parts of Arizona. So I don't think we should be rewarding good or bad behavior by sending them good water. That being said, if they want the snow off my driveway in the wintertime, or they want our flooded Mississippi River in the springtime, they can take all that water they want, but not our groundwater. And then we've got the question here, do any of the aquifers go beyond the state boundary? And is there a chance of any multi-state compact that could stop it? The short answer is yes. The aquifers do not abide by county boundaries or state boundaries. Many of them cross different states. Just like the Lake Superior is protected with a multi-state compact, I think that's the eventual solution here as well, as a multi-state compact with respect to our aquifers. While some are contained wholly within the state of Minnesota, others do not. And so all it would take is a Wisconsin or an Iowa legislature to tap into that same aquifer and draw down that important aquifer that's important to folks here in Minnesota as well. Has anything been done on that? I'm not aware of anything being done to date. We've been responding as rapidly as we can to the issue that arose. And first and foremost, we want to make certain that we took action at the county level, And second was we approached our state legislators to seek to strengthen state laws. But I like the idea of a multi-state compact. That's a terrific idea. And we have not been in touch. Well, I shouldn't say I haven't been in touch with Governor Walz. I believe that the Walz administration is most certainly aware of this request that was made by the investment group to ship water from here in Dakota County to the southwest. And I think that's the questions I've seen. Does anybody else have other questions or concerns? I didn't think I was going to get a lot of argument when it came to shipping water. It seems most folks feel about the same way that I do, and that is strongly opposed to it.
Mhm.
Matthew, I think unless you have other ideas, I think I'm going to move on to a couple other items.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk about campaigning? Or do you have other items to
And
bring
so-
up?
Well, first, actually, I'd like to talk a little bit about, well, certainly, everywhere I go, I make a point, and I hope you'll allow me, is to speak about the latest with regard to COVID. And I know that has taken on, it's all in front of us all the time. But I just wanted to share with you briefly where things are at in Dakota County. We are blessed in Dakota County to have, literally a few months ago, we were named the best local health department in the country. There's 3,000 some counties across the country, and you are fortunate to be, and we are fortunate, I feel fortunate as a county commissioner as well as a resident of Dakota County, to literally have the best local health department. And that was an objective decision, not something that they won as a popularity contest. We've seen in Dakota County 840 cases as of today. There have been 25 deaths. Our death rate, and I'm not going to try to explain why, but our death rate is half the state's death rate at 0.2% versus a little over 4% statewide. If we were a state, if Dakota County was a state, we would literally have the lowest death rate anywhere in the nation compared to other states. And again, I don't want to speculate why that is. I'm just happy that that's the case, and appreciate that there's a lot of folks working very hard, and even one death is too many. But I really appreciate what our public health nursing staff have done, and public health staff generally, as well as all the folks across the county. We released today, the state Minnesota Department of Health gave us authority to release city data. I posted that on my Facebook page and put it on Twitter and sent it out to folks on my email list. So if you're on that list, or you go to those sites, you'll see the numbers. We compare very favorably to St. Paul and Minneapolis. Our numbers are dramatically lower, but the case numbers are still significant. And the more testing that gets done, the higher those case numbers go. That's why, for me, it's the hospitalization numbers and the death numbers. And on those counts, we compare very favorably. And again, any death is too many, but we seem to be doing as well as just about anybody in the mortality rate that's been associated with it here in Dakota County. Unfortunately, we've also seen a lot of economic impact. The cost to Dakota County in lost revenues and costs is a little over $32 million estimated by the end of 2020. And unlike Hennepin County and Ramsey County, we have received zero federal aid at this point. Both Hennepin and Ramsey, Hennepin received over $200 million. Ramsey received $96 million. Dakota County and the other 85 counties have received zero. Congresswoman Craig has been phenomenal. She organized a group of, I believe it was something like 47 local officials to seek legislation that would extend that funding to counties our size. We're just narrowly a little bit less than Ramsey County, and the local governments that are experiencing all of these costs. Congress's next relief package is looking to address those needs at the local level as well. A couple final points is that there is some silver lining in this. We've seen crime rates drop by half across Dakota County. We already had fairly low crime rates. to begin with. We've seen accident crash rates drop by 53% since all this began a couple months ago. Our parks and trail usage, which was already on a record pace, literally doubling every 4 years over the last decade, is at a unbelievable clip this spring. Lots of folks getting out using our parks and trails. We've seen a PPE drive for personal protective equipment that has yielded thousands of items from Dakota County residents that are getting to first responders and others who are in need of it. To address these issues. And we'll get through it. We'll keep working hard, but it's nice to know that we've got the folks in place and the means to address it. I'm just looking to see if there's other questions that we've got on that issue. And any thoughts on if we got money, what we would spend it on. Thank you for the question. The short answer is we're already spending a whole bunch of money on additional public health costs and public safety costs. We've got a number of areas where we've got less revenues coming in. For example, just one, campgrounds can't be open. Parks programs are not open. We've not been able to do marriage licenses. That restarted up today. There's any number of areas we've seen a loss of revenue, but it's primarily the additional cost. You've got any number of folks that are now being engaged to take on testing and contact tracing and all sorts of things that we weren't doing before. By the way, I should mention that county business still continues. Road work is going to happen. We've got a law enforcement center to address mental health crises that's being constructed in Inver Grove Heights. We've got a hard to house facility or a Cahill Place in Inver Grove Heights, which is designed to take in folks who are hard to house with services embedded in that facility. There's a lot of stuff going on at the county. It's just more challenging now with folks working more so remotely and trying to do their best to protect from spreading COVID. Just for perspective, what percentage, oh, that's a great question. What percentage is it of our usual budget in Dakota County? $140 million is our property tax levy countywide. So $32 million is a pretty large chunk of that. Our total budget is about $360 million annually. Many of those things, we are the front line for those mandated required services that the state and federal government require us to do. Many of them in the social service field. So we do those, we incur the cost, and then there's a reimbursement or a payment for that from the federal or state government. So our budget is quite a bit bigger than just our levy, but a $32 million hit is obviously a very, very significant figure in our county budget. Other questions I am not seeing, but I just wanted to make a point. If you know of anybody that is experiencing issues with COVID, please send them to the website or go to the website yourself. We have a one-stop shop and hotline it's not just health questions, it's housing questions, it's financial questions, it's small business questions. We'll make sure to get them to the right place or send them my way. I know that everybody on this group obviously would have my contact information. But I'm happy to help. And it doesn't matter what the question, it doesn't matter if it's a city, county, state, or federal issue. I know the right folks to talk to, and I'm happy to help anybody that's experiencing, whether it's COVID or any other issues that they might be having a challenge with. And I appreciate it. I don't see any other questions at this point, if I'm doing this right.
Well, I've got a question actually.
You bet.
So one thing that's become clear is that long-term care centers and nursing homes and places like that have been disproportionately hit by COVID, at least in Minnesota's response. Do you know, is there anything that the county can do or should be doing to help protect the residents there?
That's a terrific question. We've had a little bit of a different experience until very recently, which is we had a very low case count and a relatively low death rate within our long-term care, our congregate care facilities. And so we were obviously quite pleased about that. However, just in the recent past, I believe it was a week ago, Wednesday, there was 25 right in our neck of the woods here at Southview Care Center. There were 25 cases on the first day that some testing was done, and within 36 hours, there were 62 cases. They've instituted a separate COVID wing within that facility, and our public health team has stepped up. MDH is primary, Minnesota Department of Health has assigned themselves the task with respect to congregate care facilities, but has now enlisted the help of our public health staff. And as I described, solid bunch. They've enlisted our public health staff to assist as well in those settings, and it's everything from testing to contact tracing and all the necessary measures. But so I don't know what the answer is going to be a week from now or 2 weeks from now if we're going to see the same experience of others. But I credit those long-term care employees a great degree for the efforts that they've made to contain the spread within those facilities within Dakota County, with the exception, and I'm not blaming the folks at Southview Care Facility. I don't know how that spread, but I do know that that's been our one very serious outbreak that we've seen in Dakota County. Separate from long-term care facilities, have we been hearing cases popping up in apartment buildings? Yes, is the short answer. There's no residential. Most of our deaths, most of our cases thus far have been in private residential settings. We have had some in our apartment buildings, but I wouldn't classify them as outbreaks per se. Most have been identified, steps taken to contain the spread, and we've been fortunate not to see massive increases in the number of positive cases within those settings. Related, here's a question from Douglas that related to folks getting out hiking, biking and walking. Any update on the Mississippi River Greenway Bike Trail? Are there any new segments planned this year? That might be the most common question outside of COVID-related questions that I get. For anyone not familiar with the Mississippi River Greenway, it will be a connection all the way from St. Paul to Hastings, 27 miles in length. There is one remaining section that is not yet done. It's about 1.3 miles just south of the Inver Grove-Rosemont border, and it is now scheduled to be complete next year. The right-of-way acquisition is taking place. Final design is being done this year. Construction will happen next year. So that's been a long time coming, over 25 years since folks started that in Dakota County. Did I miss any there, question-wise? I'm just scrolling through to see if there's other
Jules
questions.
has a question about when campgrounds will open.
Campgrounds could open as soon as next week. And we have, if anybody's unfamiliar, if you just simply go to the Dakota County webpage, just Google Dakota County, and go to there, right across the top of every page is a COVID-19 update. If you click on that, we have all sorts of the most up-to-date information about not only the most recent statistics. We've got a dashboard that's up and running, but we're also trying to keep that up to speed in terms of what's open and what's not. So for example, our libraries have done a phenomenal job of doing curbside service. They're doing online story time. They're issuing library cards in an online fashion, mailing them out. And they're just one example. We've got all sorts of, but they're very public facing, just like the campgrounds that have done such a great job under these very unusual circumstances. So I see the campgrounds, I see, cool, thanks. Any comments on radon issues in the county? For those who are not familiar with radon, it's a naturally occurring chemical in the ground. And unfortunately, it's present, as I understand it, in 2 out of every 5 homes in Dakota County. We offer free radon testing kits when the county offices are open, which they should be in a limited fashion again in the relatively short term. These radon testing kits will allow you to figure out whether, frankly, the best time to do is in the wintertime, but you can do it 12 months of the year. It is as I understand it, and please look this up rather than quote me on it, but I believe it is the #1 cause, naturally occurring cause of cancer, lung cancer. So it's a significant issue to take very seriously. And if you haven't done a radon test, it's always a good time to do that. Jumping ahead to the trail is not open from South St. Paul to St. Paul. I believe that is opening back up. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Now we're back to the Mississippi River Greenway. The South St. Paul section of the Mississippi River Greenway is entirely open. There's a connection to St. Paul that will be open. When is the groundbreaking for the new state county building near Highway 55? Well, it's scheduled for June 12th, and I've never done a virtual groundbreaking before, but it may well end up being a virtual version of a groundbreaking. For those unfamiliar with what that facility is, it's called a SMART Center. It's a Safety and Mental Health Alternative Response and Training Center, which is a fancy way of saying that it teaches cops and first responders how to deal with folks who are experiencing mental illness and mental health challenges. And it's both for the protection of the individual and for the protection of the officer. There's crisis intervention training is absolutely critical, more and more critical, it seems, with every passing day, and with some really bad outcomes for those who aren't very good at it. So this is a regional training facility to engage in training our first responders to deal with those issues. But it'll also be home to our electronic crimes unit and other law enforcement entities. The one key thing with electronic crimes, by the way, if you haven't figured it out, scammers are loving this COVID-19 stuff. They are just hammering folks with one scam effort after another after another. And so be very careful, please, to the extent that you know anybody. They don't just target folks who are vulnerable. These are sophisticated online and phone scams. And to the extent you can spread the word, that is much appreciated. Minnesota, you may well know this, Minnesota is the #1 target for online and phone scams in the nation. And the #1 reason why we're #1 is because we don't hang up the goldarn phone. We're just too polite to hang up on people, and they keep you talking. And eventually they take advantage of folks. And it's literally in the state data shows it's in the millions of dollars on an annual basis. I'm just looking, I'm trying to talk and read at the same time. Thank you for sharing some of the links. I appreciate that on Radon. We've got the groundbreaking, great news on the mental health of first responders. Other questions or concerns? I know we wanted to talk about elections as well. And I just had a conversation with our top election official at Dakota County today. He was very appropriate in the way that he said it, but he is really, really frustrated. He has to make a decision in the next few weeks whether to order 500,000 absentee ballots or 500,000 mail-in ballots. And he doesn't have the guidance on what exactly he should do yet. We are looking to see what, primarily at the state level, we have a bit of a argument going on between, and it breaks down on partisan lines, that for whatever reason, our Republican brothers and sisters are not real keen on mail-in ballots. And Secretary of State Simon wants to make sure that people are protected and limited the spread as much as possible. And so he's proposed more of a mail-in opportunity for people to vote in a protected fashion, a safe fashion, a private fashion, and a secure fashion. And we're still awaiting at the county level. These are the folks like the gentleman I talked to today, Andy, who heads it up for Dakota County. These are the folks that have to execute. They have to do it, and it's important that they be able to do their job well and accurately. So we're hoping that we get some good guidance. That's on the how the election is. We don't fully know yet. One way or another, we're going to have a ton. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of voters in Dakota County alone will be voting by absentee or mail. We know that to be the case. We've already seen the demand that we expect to be there. The August primary will be a heck of a test. I'm guessing there will be a number of primaries across the country. The November election, of course, will be a massive test for how and there's some are already predicting we may not have results right away. Just the way that campaigns are expected to take place. I don't know about you folks, but when I go out door to door, I'm up for re-election this fall. I love going door to door, but I don't think that people are going to be real happy to have somebody knocking on their door. And campaigns is just the whole world as we know it is going to be taking place in a different way, both elections and campaigns. I mailed in, I see Connie mailed in her absentee ballot request in early May. Is it better to do so by mail? You've seen both and I've seen both in terms of how the best way to do that is. I would be speculating if I know that our elected election officials at Dakota County take all those requests quite seriously, and they're really good at their jobs in terms of getting those ballots out. But that's what I would recommend, is at least take advantage of the absentee ballot approach. It'll be the first time that I've voted in that fashion. I like going to I'm sure most of you do too. I like going to the polls and coming out with my sticker and doing all of that. But
there's a lot of concern about the sticker, just so you know.
Yeah, I know there is.
If we can get stickers sent out,
we're touching. Yeah, well, it's a health concern, but it's also we're all proud with. It's a Minnesota thing. We like wearing our stickers and showing that we're good, responsible citizens. But it's also people are touching those stickers before they're giving you those stickers. So I don't know what's going to happen with the I voted sticker.
I did link in the chat the link to request your absentee ballot. And
Great.
So that's something that you can definitely do right now. Are there steps that Dakota County could take? I know that there's things that, our state law, like right now, there's a lawsuit to drop the need for a witness to absentee ballot for those who are sheltering in home. There's also the idea of the postmark, where if it's not received before election day by the election processor, it's not a valid ballot. Changing that to as long as it's postmarked by election day, then it would be accepted. Are there other things that Dakota County could do to make mail-in ballots more encouraged or more easier for people to do? One thing that if I can suggest something, one thing is that states who have mail-in ballots and automatic voter mail-in ballot like Washington, they have like collection points where people can drop off ballots. Can people drop off mail-in ballots somewhere in Dakota County?
Not that I'm aware of at this point. To your question, your specific question is what can Dakota County do to help? What we generally do is we, and I expect we will do very well this year, is spread the word and get whatever the final decisions are. And I suspect you're right. There's probably going to be some court challenges. There will be some legislative challenges. There will be perhaps executive orders. There's going to be all kinds of guidance, which may end up just being a mess. And our number one goal is to make sure that voters know whatever they're able to do in order to exercise their right to vote. And we have a little bit of a challenge on our own board. In that we're not a partisan board, but we do have folks who lean one direction and folks who lean the other. A couple of us served in the legislature, so our partisan leanings are pretty open and out there. But I'm the one Democrat. There's two former legislator types that are Republicans. And while we may disagree on what the most appropriate way to vote is. I don't think there's a single person on our board that would disagree with making sure that we educate every resident, every potential voter on what their option is, how they can appropriately exercise their right to vote. So once we've got that guidance, which hopefully will come, like I talked about earlier, we're waiting to, our chief election officials waiting to order 500,000 ballots one way or the other. Once we've got that guidance, we'll get word out with a vengeance to make sure that people are able to exercise their right to vote.
Thank you. You know, you talked earlier about how you're going to miss, or you're worried that voters aren't going to appreciate knocking door to door. You know, you have a reputation of being a very strong campaigner. What sort of things are you planning on doing?
That's a great question. I think, I hope that we will reach a stage where that door to door campaigning is still an acceptable form. I don't want it to do anything. I'm sure nobody on the line here wants to do anything, because we're all probably pretty active campaigners, at least I would hope. And none of us want to do anything that would put in harm's way those folks that we're visiting with on the doorsteps. That being said, I'm used to knocking on 15, 16, 17,000 doors every campaign season. And if that's not going to be allowed to occur, or if that's not an appropriate thing to be doing, then we got to go to mailings, and we're putting up signs. And I put up signs anyway, but my first and foremost, I suspect what we're doing tonight will become more of a go-to approach. Interacting in small groups via social media or via WebEx and Zoom and the other efforts that are out there to engage people. You'll see a lot more on social media, which I don't know is necessarily a good thing. Social media comes with lots of advantages, but also lots of disadvantages. And you're all on, I suspect most of you are familiar with what those are, so I won't belabor them, but I think it'll be all of those sorts of things that we'll end up engaged in. The one observation I would make is that if you happen to be, it's almost to some degree an incumbent protection program, because it'll be very hard for a challenger to mount a race against an incumbent who's well known. And I don't see that as healthy. As an incumbent who's well known, it's good for me personally, but I don't see it as a very healthy thing for the system and for democracy in general. So I don't necessarily know that I've got all the answers, and I don't think today, a month from now or 3 months from now, it could be entirely different, one way or the other. So we're all kind of in the same boat, Matthew. And I like I'm in an apartment building, but we'll hang a sign on my balcony railing. Exactly. My guess, by the way, is that this will be particularly at the local level where folks can't spend tens of thousands of dollars on mail, and they'll get swamped in the social media world by the Trumps and the Bidens and the U.S. Senate races. Will buy up every space on social media that they possibly can. The radio and TV stuff will all be taken away. It may end up, unfortunately, being very much a sign war election, where folks go to the ballot, they're going to vote, they're there to vote for president, they're there to vote for U.S. Senate. But by the time they get to legislative races or county races or city races, it's whose lawn sign did they see the most of. So when we talk about putting a sign on the balcony railing, that might be the ticket. And I appreciate your willingness to do that. I think it's great. I just find it disconcerting and a little sad that this might be the 1 year where it so much comes down to just whose name people know better. I see I can put a sign in your yard in Delaware.
It's good. It's a good location. It's a good location. Yeah,
I don't know if anybody's seen my lawn signs. You may not want one of mine. Mine are sometimes compared to billboards. I've got several that are 4 foot by 8 foot, and I try to put them in open areas, and then not put up as many signs. So I'm not trying to do too much sign pollution.
I think it's Inver Grove. You know, I mean, you've got so much real estate out there. You got to go bigger.
You got to go big.
You gotta
There's
go big.
it's a lot of large lots in Inver Grove.
Yeah, thank you for your answers on that. So you talked a little bit about the money that the revenue that Dakota County is missing. How much does moving the property tax due date, does that affect? Is that a large effect, or is it more just lost revenue?
You know, it's a we were very concerned that we were going to see a drastic reduction, but you know what we did? We said, and for anybody that didn't hear about it, we gave any taxpayer, any property taxpayer in Dakota County impacted by COVID-19 on an honor system, the opportunity to pay their property taxes July 15th rather than May 15th. May 15th is the normal deadline. But we also put in the press release and put in all of the online postings that please don't take advantage of this if you don't have to. You know, these are dollars that support our schools, they support our cities. And believe it or not, I believe the latest number I saw, it looked like our tax collections were actually going to go up. So, you know, typical Minnesota, typical Dakota County, folks, even when they're struggling, they're looking to help out, to help others and make sure that their schools and their communities are taken care of. So it's kind of like the census, which is going on as well. I think we were in the top 10. I think we're now like number 11 in the country in terms of completing the census. We're leaders in Minnesota and in Dakota County. So it's nice to see people stepping up when the times are tough.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Let's see.
And I'm reading the comments as you are.
Yeah.
You'll need a smaller one for my balcony. Connie says, "Yeah, I do have some smaller ones, Connie."
It'll just be an A.
And then a very kind Julie, thank you for the shout out to our Dakota County Master Recycler Composter Program. And Jenny, we've got our environmental specialists. I without trying to brag too much, I think we've got the best environmental program of any county in the state. And they still have great ideas about what else we can be doing. But for a county that's home to the two of the largest landfills in the state of Minnesota, and have to put up with the stigma and the stench that occasionally, and I shouldn't say stench because for the most part they control it, but there's a lot of challenges that come with that. But we've bent over backwards to ensure that we are as environmentally sound and doing our best to move ahead and move forward at every opportunity. So thank you for the shout out. I'll pass that along, and you'll be able to look for even more opportunities as we move forward.
KJ, I saw you raised your hand. Did you have a question?
That was by accident.
Okay.
I do the same.
Marcia, you have a question. Will the ballot show party? You're talking the primary or the general election? Because it's the same as it's always been for both of those.
The one thing to keep an eye out for, by the way, is you'll recall that we've now got two. I don't know what to call them, marijuana parties, or two parties that are keen on marijuana issues that will be identified on the ballot. We don't know yet what sort of field of candidates that they will put forward. We'll find that out when filings close on June 2nd. But I know that the DFL has been a little concerned, quite concerned, frankly, about some of the marijuana-leaning candidates pulling 1 or 2 or 3% or more from primarily our House and Senate candidates, because that little sway is enough. I think there was, I believe it was 14 seats. It was the majority that would have swung the majority in the last election. had the difference in votes. It was only like a 1,400 vote difference when all of them were combined. There were that many close races. So even a few hundred votes in a race, and there were a couple races that were decided by in the neighborhood of 100 or 150 votes. That's how close these races are. So I went a little off on a tangent there, but it's obviously a critical issue to make sure that we've got good, strong DFL candidates, and that the marijuana party candidates don't peel away too many votes, even though they may have an issue that's very important to a number of people.
So Marcia, in answer to your question, the August primary is split by party. You can either vote for, well, I guess if there's from the other major parties, the marijuana parties, you can either vote for one of the four, and then you get to vote for the entire ballot, from senator on down to the last partisan race, which would be probably local house district. On the November ballot, there will be partisan races and then nonpartisan races like Commissioner Atkins here. And so in Commissioner Atkins' race, there won't be parties next to the name. But on the Tina Smith race, Tina Smith and whoever the Republican opponent is, we'll have parties by them. Chris, let's see, there's a question sent to me. What's the criteria for a library reopening or for libraries reopening? And then just commenting that they've been doing a great job.
Oh, well, first off, thank you very much. And I will pass that kind comment along to our library team. They are bending over backwards. They're doing such great work under very challenging circumstances. We're taking our guidance from Governor Walz and the Minnesota Department of Health. When they give the indicator that we can gather larger numbers, our libraries will be open. They're anxious to get open as soon as they can, but they also want to be safe. And so we're, unlike those who are speculating about and pretending to be epidemiologists and so forth, which I am not. And I talked to Dr. Klein, Senator Klein. We both agreed that we're going to rely on experts, not made up science in making those decisions and getting that guidance. We've got such a great Department of Health. We'll use their guidance and have our public health staff. We've got our own epidemiologist in Dakota County. And we'll use their guidance to determine when it's best and safe and appropriate to reopen those libraries. I hope it's soon, because I love going to the libraries, and I'm sure many of you do too. In the meantime, though, they'd be the first ones to tell you, make use of that digital material. We're seeing record use of digital material. We're seeing, I believe I saw a number that we had over 9,000 users of the curbside delivery pickup in the first month. So there's still lots of ways to exercise your library or exercise your ability to use your library. I'm seeing the question here, do we know how many votes the DFL would lose by taking a stronger pro-marijuana stance? I have no clue. I don't know. I know it's a very important issue to some folks, but I haven't seen any numbers in terms of what the prediction is on what difference that would make.
I think it matters a lot regionally too. I mean, Representative Winkler's been very pro-marijuana,
but Speaker Hortman has been much more cautious, and I think they kind of sum up where many folks in Minnesota are. You know, you've got folks on both sides of that issue that are making cogent arguments, and I just hope that logic prevails rather than politics. But I guess we'll see. I did want one other item on my little note card here that I had to share, and that was we've been very fortunate in Dakota County that we've managed now to pay off all of our debt. We are one of the only debt-free counties anywhere in the United States. We might well be the only. I know we're the only one in the Twin Cities, and the only one in Minnesota. The average debt in the 7-county area is over $200 million a year, which means not only are they paying back that debt, but they're also paying all of the interest on the debt. And I tell that to you not simply to just reach around and pat ourselves on the back or anything like that, but it does help us a lot in terms of being able to weather the storms that come. when you're having to pay, like some counties, 10 or 12 or $15 million a year just in interest. That's not even the principal. That principal is going to be more. We don't have those costs, and that took a long time coming. It's something that we hope to be able to continue, but it puts us in a position where when we have a crisis like this, and there's crises that come. This won't be the last one. It's not the first one we've ever encountered, and it won't be the last. But it puts us in a position where we can weather the storm better than most, and protect as best we can those most vulnerable among us within Dakota County. And it's part of the reason we've got a terrific health department, is we're able to use dollars that would otherwise be spent on debt and spend it on services. It's also the reason we have the lowest property tax rate on a per capita basis of any county in Minnesota.
Thank you. I want to take the time to thank you so much for coming out to us. We've been doing this for about an hour now. So if you wanted to grab a drink of water or have some juice. Otherwise, if there's any other topics you want to talk about, or if there's any other questions that people have, we can hang out. Otherwise, we can put an end to it. So it's kind of up to everyone here.
Well, I don't think, Matthew, I've seen anybody nod off yet, so that's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
And we've covered quite the range of topics. I do want to, most importantly, say thank you to all of you for all that you've done. Not just Senate District 52 obviously has a fond place in my heart. I got a lot of help from volunteers and supporters within the Senate district for many, many years. I appreciate that, but I appreciate it just as much what you're doing for Ruth and for Matt and for Rick on an ongoing basis. I appreciate the fact that you're involved in our local communities. We were talking earlier about we've got a candidate who filed today for West St. Paul City Council, along with me filing for re-election for County Commissioner. It's just such a pleasure to be hanging out with a group like this. The final thing that I would ask is that if you know of anybody, these really are, I mean, it gets said on advertisements now that these are challenging, unprecedented times and all of that. If you know of anybody that's struggling, that needs help, send them to me. I'll figure it out. It doesn't matter whether it's local level, state or federal level. We'll figure it out. That's what we do as Democrats, and that's what we are supposed to do as elected officials. So please, if it's you or somebody in your own family, reach out to me. But also, this more than ever, now's the time to look out for our neighbors. And if you have anybody that you know is needing help or struggling, please send them my way. With that, Matthew, unless others have questions, that might be a good place to finish. Please invite me back on a rainy night when we aren't all anxious to get back outside and enjoy the sunshine. But otherwise, I'd say just stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully sooner than later.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Yeah, you can unmute.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Joe, for the input and the greetings and everything. But yeah, when you were saying that Dakota County is one of the only counties that doesn't have any debt right now, I was wondering if you guys are aware at all of the public banking movement, or if you heard anything from lawmakers or suggestions from constituents, because I know that it's taking some great strides in New York and California. In particular, California, their state legislature has introduced a public banking bill, and now I think Los Angeles and a number of other cities are doing some exploratory committees to establish a public bank. And the main benefits being that you're able to finance public projects without taking on that kind of interest that you were talking about, and the public bank would have the same lending power, that they could lend at a fractional reserve rate, so that if the bank has $1 billion in capital, then they could create 10, or I suppose 9 billion they could lend that out, because that's how a private bank is allowed to do that. They can, as long as they can basically multiply by 10 whatever they have in their books, to create straight loans. And I don't know. I know like maybe some places would want to do that in the way that they would purchase their debt. But if Dakota County is set up right now where we don't have any debt, then I think this is that puts us in a very good place in terms of maybe creating a public bank.
Well, thanks, Chris. The short answer is no. You asked, has Dakota County considered it? And we have not. Have I? The longer answer is yes. As a legislator, I chaired the House Commerce Committee for several years when I was at the Capitol, and the topic came up on a couple of occasions. It's my understanding that it would still require a change in state law, and in order to do it, that it would have to move through the legislative process and be made available as an option to local governments to exercise. I don't honestly know. I haven't followed it that closely to know if that is in the process, if there's been a bill introduced. I do know that there was one when I was in the House that didn't really go anywhere. But I don't know the status of it at this stage. From Dakota County standpoint, though, we're pretty much a pay-as-you-go. We save our nickels and dimes in order to make big purchases. And as a result, we don't, even the public bank concept wouldn't necessarily apply to us because we just save up until we can afford something and then we build it.
That sounds, that the state mandate is that checks out. I understand. So yeah, and sorry, I didn't mean to sound like I was trying to preach to the
No, it's all good.
professor here. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's a very interesting concept, and I look forward to see. It's Minnesota likes to be on the forefront of various things. Generally, what that really means is we like to be the second one to do it. You'll see all sorts of examples in Minnesota where we check and see how other states have done it, and then we get it done in Minnesota and do it better. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes in California, New York, and elsewhere.
Yeah, and looking at on there with great anticipation.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us for this. Again, this will be available on our YouTube channel and on Facebook following, and our website. And so thank you so much for sitting with us and talking to us about what's going on in Dakota County. Good luck this election season. We'll be pulling for you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Everybody have a great evening.
You too. Good evening, Joe. Bye, everybody.